Hi guys, I'm here in the nursery and today I'm making our Easter egg bread. Now I make this for my family every year at Easter. We have it on Easter morning. I make my bread into a big braided wreath with Easter eggs in it. But for my preschoolers, I like to have them each make their own little one. So they make a little nest out of the dough and they put an egg in and we sprinkle the dough with some sprinkles, colored sprinkles, and that's our Easter egg bread to bring home every year. And so to get started, I have measured out my sugar and my yeast and a little bit of salt in here. And I have melted my milk. I'm using oat milk and the butter, and I'm just going to mix it in here and then we whisk it together. Add in 2 eggs. So I've let my yeast and sugar mix get big and eat up some sugar. And I've added in 2 cups of flour here. And in our recipe, there's 2 more cups, but we're going to add that a little bit at a time. We might not add the whole amount. We only want to add up to 4 cups of flour. So here's an additional cup of flour that we're adding in. I'm just doing about 1/2 cup at a time and then stirring it. Ooh. All right, so I've added most of the rest of the flour. I may add a little bit at a time, and I'm pretty much ready to knead. Now this dough is a lot softer than the dough that we make at school. For one, because it doesn't have whole wheat flour, but it's sticky, so I'm gonna have to kind of be careful and keep my fingers out of it. But we can start to knead it. We do like this. I'm going to let this rise in my bowl, which I've cleaned out and put a little oil in. And I'm going to just cover it and put it in a warm spot to rise. And then we'll divide it up. See you then. Hi. So I have let my bread dough rise. Now I'm going to take it out and put it onto a little floured surface. And maybe just give it a little bit of kneading just to punch it down. And what I'm going to do, if you are going to make this into small little buns with an egg in the middle, divide it into 6 pieces. I am going to make mine into a big wreath for my family, since this is what I usually do for Easter. So I'll show you how to do that too. So what I do is I roll it into a pretty big, long kind of snake. And then what I do is I'm going to cut this into 3 long ropes, but without snipping one at the ends. So I basically just come up like this. All the way to the, almost to the end. And I set that little piece aside and I give it a little flour. Rub it with just a little bit of flour. That helps so that it doesn't just kind of blend into one big blob later. Keeps the little braids separate. And then I do the same with this one. I snip this right up. Now, if you are doing your little nest and you've divided your dough into 6 pieces, each of those 6 pieces you can divide into 2 and roll them into 2 long snakes, and then twist them together like a rope, and then make it into a little nest. And that, after it's risen for a little bit, that is what you will nestle your colored egg in. So we are just going to kind of roll these strands out. And I will tilt the camera down so you can see what I've done. It's attached here, and I have 3 long strands, and I just begin to carefully kind of flop one over the other like a braid. There we go. And by doing it on the table, I keep it from getting too stretched out and thin, though that's still pretty tricky in some spots. But you just do it like this. And eventually we get to the end, and then we'll carefully put it on our pan and let it rise some more. And you will do the same with your nests. You'll let your little nests, rope nests, go and rise. I'm thinking of my neighbor has baby birds, and she called me over because she thought they had fallen out of their nest this morning. And it turns out they had not fallen out of their nest. Their mama and daddy bird were down below yelling and yelling and yelling, but it wasn't because they had fallen out. It was because the mama and daddy bird were telling them it was time. So those baby birds took off just this morning. 2 little guys, and they kind of went flopping down. It's amazing to see the new life all around us. So here we go. I'm going to cover this up and let it rise some more. I'll be back. Okay, so my bread dough has risen, and now what I'm going to do is brush it with a little bit of egg wash. We include the yolk in there, and that gives it a really nice, shiny, golden crust when you've baked it. It's very beautiful. So we're going to brush the whole thing with a little egg. And then what I have is some eggs I dyed. These are raw eggs that I dyed. You do raw because they're going to bake in the oven. You can do hard-boiled, but they're going to be really, really cooked up. So these will just hard boil in the oven while they bake, and they're just fine to eat. You can dye your eggs with natural colors if you'd like. I have had mixed luck with that. I also feel like sometimes using all these blueberries and then just using them to dye eggs, and you're mixing in vinegar and then throwing them out, I always feel like I feel bad about not eating those blueberries or spinach or red cabbage. Here we go. Now what I do is I'm going to nestle these eggs in there. I just kind of very carefully open up a little spot where things are crisscrossing and pop my egg in like that. Let's see here. See if I can evenly space them. Now we'll go in between these three. Here we go. Now normally I leave my crust just like this with a little bit of an egg wash and nothing else. But this year, for fun, I thought I'd sprinkle on our sprinkles the way we do with our nursery bread, just for fun. And if you are making your little nests at home, you do the same thing. You brush it with, you can use egg, or you can also do a little bit of a powdered sugar mixed with milk, like we did for our hot cross buns, but a little thinner. And here we go. And now I'm going to bake it, and I will take a picture and show you when it's done. Thank you.